Today, we're going to talk about the Atlanta Hawks. The Hawks are a team that I think are going to make some noise in the Eastern Conference this year. They made the Eastern Conference Finals a few years ago with Trae Young alone, basically. So they added a few guys that I think are definitely going to push them over the hump. What's going on, guys? My name is Jaden, and welcome to the channel. This is my first video on the channel. Right now, I'm starting a series on NBA teams. It's like an NBA preview on all 30 teams before the NBA season. The NBA season starts in about a few weeks here, and I thought it'd be cool to kind of break down each of the 30 teams and kind of see what the outlook is for them on the season and, you know, what they might bring to the table, what we can expect from them. It should be a good time. I'm excited for the NBA season to start. I know a lot of NBA fans are excited for the NBA season to start. I think it's going to be a good one. A lot of teams switched it up this year, definitely changed some things around. We saw a lot of players move, saw some coaches move, both in and out of teams. And yeah, I think this is going to be an exciting season for sure. So let's talk about the Atlanta Hawks roster moves to start off, because I think that they made some pretty significant changes. They definitely made a lot more moves than other NBA teams this offseason. And let's start with the biggest one. That's Kristaps Porzingis, right? Kristaps might not be who he used to be in terms of like his all-star form, but I think people also forget Kristaps was the unicorn in the NBA before Wemby. And I think Kristaps still has like a good amount in the tank left. And barring injury or anything like that, I mean, he can definitely put the Atlanta Hawks over the hump. We saw him help lead a Boston Celtics team to a championship. Granted, he was injured during a bit of that run, especially in the finals. But he definitely pushed them over the hump. I think that Kristaps is like definitely in for a good season with the Hawks. I mean, last year he was averaging around like 20 points a game and like 8 boards a game, good for a couple blocks a game. I think we can expect to see basically the same thing. I think he's going to slide right into the starting center spot. I think that's going to move Okongwu to the bench because I think they're still going to rock Jalen Johnson at the 4, Dyson, Ricochet, and Trae Young. So I think he's going to play the 5 for them. And I think that Kristaps is going to add like much needed scoring for the Atlanta Hawks. The Hawks, outside of Trae Young, I don't think they have a reliable scorer. That being said, I think Jalen Johnson is going to be that guy this year. I honestly think he'll be the secondary option this year. And if he didn't have that injury, we probably would have saw a lot more of him, but he was having a breakout season last year. So I think Kristaps Porzingis adds a lot of needed scoring for this team that, you know, was heavily relied on Trae Young. And I think that Kristaps is also going to bring a lot of defense to the squad, something that I think Atlanta actually has an underrated defensive team. I think obviously Trae Young's kind of like a liability on the defensive end. Dyson makes up for it. Jalen Johnson makes up for it. And now they're adding Kristaps Porzingis, and they still have Okongwu. So I think Kristaps is going to bring a lot offensively, a lot defensively. And I think we're in for a treat in terms of Kristaps and Trae Young this season. Maybe some pick and roll action. I know Kristaps likes to hang out on the perimeter a lot, but you know, maybe Trae can get him both involved inside and outside of the paint. Other guys that, you know, I think are low-key sleeper picks for the Hawks are the additions of Luke Kennard and Nickeil Walker-Alexander. I think that their bench is just a lot deeper. As a whole, this squad just looks nice. Don't be surprised if the Atlanta Hawks make a lot of noise in the East, especially with these teams that are dealing with injuries and player movements and all that stuff. But we'll talk about like where I think they're going to fall in the standings in a second here. I just want to talk about the thing that we should look out for. I think that if there's one thing we need to look out for this team, it's just the starting 5. I already said, I think it's going to be Trae Young at the point. I think it's going to be Dyson at the 2. I think it's going to be Ricochet at the 3, Jalen at the 4, and Kristaps at the 5. I could see them putting Jalen at the 3, Kristaps at the 4, Okongwu at the 5. But I do think that Quinn Snyder is going to end up starting Ricochet. He had like an up and down year, like as a rookie season would go. I think this might be one of the more talented starting 5s in the league. I know it's still early to say that, but Dyson and Jalen took massive jumps last year, like massive jumps. Dyson Daniels, I don't think anyone really saw like him to be like a steals leader in the league or like up there with the steals leaders, like an all defensive type of guy. And he's only going to improve. Same with Jalen Johnson. Again, before the injury, Jalen was putting up some monster numbers. So I really do think this is going to be one of the more talented starting 5s in the league, definitely in the East. My standings predictions for the Hawks this year, I think I have them at 4 or 5. but don't be surprised if they get into the 3 slot. Like, you heard it here first. Don't be surprised if they get into the 3 slot. I think Atlanta is going to surprise a lot of people this year. And, with guys like Tatum out, Dame is off the Bucks, Halliburton is out. And with Pacers and Boston, those are like 2 top teams in the East that are now like not even in contention for like top 5 seeds. I don't think the Bucks are either. I love Giannis. Giannis is an MVP caliber player, but I don't think the Bucks are going to do it that much this year. It's, again, still a playoff team, but not a top 5 team in the East. And then you got those young guys. You got the Detroits. You got the Orlandos. Cleveland's going to make some noise again. But, yeah, don't be surprised if Atlanta slides into that 3 seed. Again, Trae Young is a guy who, carried his team to an Eastern Conference Finals. And I also think Trae Young is now slowly starting to become one of the more underrated guys in the league. A guy like Ja Morant, to me, is not over Trae Young. And I think that Trae Young is getting to the point in his career where he is getting a little bit underrated. He's been to a conference finals. He puts up great numbers. Sure, he hasn't made a ton of noise. He hasn't really had the team yet. And I think that this is going to be the most talented team that Trae Young has ever played with. I think that this season is going to rely heavily on Trae Young's shoulders. And I think that, if there's a season for Trae Young to kind of define who he is as a player and his legacy going forward and how we should view him going forward. I said legacy, like he's super young, like he still has so many years. But like what I mean is like how we're going to look at Trae Young in the future and going forward might rely heavily on this season. And what he can do with a team when he's given talent, young talent, experienced talent, all around talent. And I think this is going to be a huge year for Trae Young, a huge year for the Hawks. And I think Trae Young has a lot to prove this season. And it'll be exciting to see. So yeah, Atlanta Hawks, I think they're gonna have a great season. I think they're gonna end up being a top 5 seed, maybe a top 3 seed, and we'll see how it goes. So that's my preview on the Atlanta Hawks. Next up, we're gonna do Boston. That'll be the next video. So stay tuned for that. Leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.